Okay, hey, what's up, guys? It's Jamie. It is, what is today? The 17th of October, 2022. It's Monday. And as I do this video, it's 8:14 in the morning. So pre-market, I just took a quick peek at my Webull watch list. I use Webull to kind of get a sense of the sentiment at the moment for the cryptos as well as the stock market, for the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, whatever is going on. I could jump on there and just take a quick peek. So what I wanted to just talk about this morning is I haven't been showcasing technical analysis stuff like charts, and I'm gonna tell you why. The premise of these conversations that I have are just that. They're for entertainment purposes, right? For conversation and dialogue. There's not financial advice. It's just like I say the same thing over and over again. It's someone will text me or call me that's a friend of mine, friend or family member that cares about that kind of stuff. We'll say, hey, what do you think? Did you see what happened to Tesla? What do you think? What do you think? I'm just using Tesla. What do you think is going to happen at Tesla? Where do you think Tesla's going? Hey, what Bitcoin? You think it's going back to 10 grand to 3,500? Ethereum, Solana. What are you doing? What do you think's going on with that? XRP. What's happening? And people will go to YouTube search, or they'll go to Google, they'll go to videos or just the topic, and try to figure out what is going on with the sentiment. What are people saying? If you hear something in the news about somebody that I just heard about a tragedy about a 15-year-old who was a shooter. I think it was in North Carolina. You know, this is a bad thing, right? And I was like, what? And my wife actually told me about that. And then I had a customer sitting with me in my office when she called me. I always do my best to answer the phone when she calls me, because we have kids and stuff. I just want to make sure everything's all right. And then I'll say, is everything all right? She goes, yeah. And then I'll say I'm with somebody or I'm busy, but she said, hey, I just wanted you, did you see what happened? Did you hear about what happened in North Carolina? And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't hear about what happened in North Carolina. My customer was, oh yeah, there was a shooting. So I said, well, I gotta go. And then as I was talking to the customer, we're talking about it, I Googled it really quick on my screen, and I saw that I skimmed it very quickly, and it said a 15-year-old had shot some people. So I was like, oh man. So I mean, not to bring that up, because that's not a good thing, but I mean, it's something that happened. But whatever the case is, good news or bad news, reality or rumor, it's you can find it in this day and age, and usually you can find it faster than Fox or whatever your news source might be. I can find it faster on Instagram and Facebook or YouTube, right, than I can probably on a news station, because the news is released so quickly, right? And in that space, people are just trying to capture your attention. So whenever I'm talking about stuff, I'm not an expert, and I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm just saying, like, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm checking out, and you can use me to kind of ping off your own sentiment, what you're thinking. And that's how I look at each day and each week, as I look at this, whatever we're going through over these coming months, weeks and months ahead of us. The volatility, the uncertainty, the fear, the constant FUD of what is happening right now all over the world. It's constant. I have to kind of set it aside, pay attention, understand that it's a reality, and use that. It's just like driving in the rain, right? Like you can't ignore it if it's raining, depending how hard it's raining. I mean, you got to adjust your speed, right? The wiper blades, you know, like there's that super fast speed, or there's like that kind of occasional one that just kind of clears your windshield. And depending how your brakes are and how your tires are, like I'll see people driving in the rain and just are flying like they don't, it's like nothing. So they're very confident, obviously, that that they're not going to lose control of the car, or worse yet, there's a massive, you know, accumulation of water somewhere that if you hit it, you hydroplane and lose control of your vehicle, or somebody else might have had an accident. That's why I try not to drive fast in bad weather. So you got to slow down and just kind of pay attention to what's happening, not just for yourself, but other people, because other people can get reckless. So when I talk to my son now, I've been talking about his budget, and I'm like, hey, here's where I would start. Just look at your budget. Look at how much money you got coming in, whatever your source is. And in his case, it's the military, right? So he has, because he's in the Army, he's a private first class. He's going to be getting a promotion, but he only gets a little bit of money. They don't pay those guys a lot of money every month. Granted, their expenses are less, but they're not making a lot of money at that level. So I said, just know how much you're spent, how much you got incoming net, and what is your overhead, and then look at the delta, the difference. And then you can kind of see, where am I spending this money? Where's the money going? I should have an extra $400 a month, right? And if I don't, then where am I spending it? Am I spending it on to-go food, like, you know, eating out, buying a Taco Bell or Wendy's or whatever, or my what do you call it, Uber Eats, or you know, am I blowing it somewhere else? I got to account for this money. So whatever the number is really irrelevant, whether it's $400, 4,000, 400,000. You can spend more. You can have a deficit of the income left over after whatever your earned income in, or your passive income. Meaning, if you have real estate, for example, and that real estate pays for itself, meaning if you have debt on that property, and then after you pay the property, all is expensive. If there's property managers, you know, principal and interest, taxes and insurance, any side money you're setting aside for unexpected thing, maintenance, upgrades, things like that. After it's all said and done, you're like, hey, I'm making whatever that number is, $400 a month, 4,000 a month, 40,000 a month. Then if you're blowing that money and you can't keep track of it, then that's a problem. You got to know how to distribute that money. Again, this is what I've learned through experience, not through somebody sitting me down and saying, here's what you should be doing. So when I look at the stock market today, and right now my conversation is Tesla, right? So I have in the Robinhood account, I have 125 shares of Tesla, which I own, I think, at 232. Okay, and right now it's trading at, I think before I got on this video, it was at 208, 209. Now it's at a very pivotal point where there's something called a head and shoulders pattern, which someone else showed me, right? But I have this book on my bag, it's in the back, but I have a book, it's called The Big Chart, and it basically shows you all these patterns. So I like to kind of just have an idea. It doesn't mean it's going to be the way it goes, but they're probabilities. And the head and shoulders pattern, you know, it goes up, right? And it forms like what looks like a shoulder. And then it comes down to a neckline, and then it kind of bases, and then it goes up over the shoulder, the high part of the shoulder, right? And then where my head is in this illustration, it goes up to the point up at that certain top, and then it pulls back down to the neckline, and then it'll go back up again to what is essentially the shoulder, the left shoulder. Now, when it comes back down to the neckline again, and it's completely formed, they say that that's a bearish indicator, saying that it's probably going to break to the downside. So Tesla has been holding around that $200 mark, bouncing off of that support. And if it breaks that $200 support, which is what is being said, what is the sentiment, what the experts say, what the gurus say, what a lot of traders that are talking about Tesla, because Tesla is one of the biggest companies in the world, right? And then there's all these different opinions, and you can insert in whatever stock you want, whatever cryptocurrency. If you want to talk about Bitcoin, if you want to talk about Google or Amazon, if you want to talk about Walmart, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, then they all have a pattern, a price action. They all have PPI, they all have PE ratios, they all have earning reports. Certain shareholders, CEOs that do dumb things or good things. There's news, there's good news about all these different influences on its product or service. So when I look at Tesla right now, I'm very, it's like watching a sports team that you're a fan of, whether you're a soccer fan or a football fan, or basketball, baseball. You're like, who's going to win the World Series? Who's going to win the playoffs? Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Who's going there? And people get excited about it. They have a passion about it, or they're just curious. Even if I'm not a massive sports fan, like I'm not like I know all the stats and all the players. I know the stars, the superstars, but I'm not the guy you have a conversation with about sports stuff. But people get really excited about that, and they'll ask, who's your favorite team and who do you think's going to the final championship games, whatever it might be. So for me, Tesla's at a point now where, regardless of how it goes, I don't think Tesla will go to zero long term. Intermediately, short term, it is a possibility it breaks down to 180-ish, because that looks like, if you look at the charts, that's what it looks like. If you pull back and you look at a chart, a candlestick chart, if you know anything about that, if you look at a daily, a weekly, a monthly, you're going to see it when you pull back. It's like looking at Google Maps and you get Street View, right? To give you some details, macros or micro, like you can really see the live action of what's happening there in the street, the details of what's going on in the street, the neighborhood, the house. Or if you zoom out on Zillow or Google Maps, I can get a good idea of the city and what's in the area, and kind of like a satellite view of, is it surrounded by trees, water, right? Is there a huge city there? What's kind of popping out there? It gives you a bird's eye view of what's going on when you pull back. So Tesla right now might break down. And then here is your strategy, like where you insert your commitment, where you say, am I over leveraged? If you have margin on any account, whether it's Fidelity or Moomoo or Webull, or however you're Robinhood, however you're trading, if you're not investing, meaning like, I don't care if it's 300 or 200 or 100. I like Tesla. I'm keeping it for 10 years or 50 years or whatever. I'm never going to sell my shares. Then it really probably doesn't matter, and there's no concern. It's like right now, my primary residence that I live in, the market is pulling back. I've seen my property drop, I think, $80,000 in value. I'm not going to sell my property. Like, I'm losing value. My house is going down. I've lived there, and I'm going to live there for a little while. And I'm not going to sell that property. The plan today is I don't plan on selling my primary residence right now. I do someday, or I don't plan on actually ever plan to sell, right? As long as I'm breathing, I will never sell that property. Even if I move somewhere else, I will keep that property. I probably rent it out because I could make it a 3-unit easily a 3-unit. And there's more potential there. So I'm like, I'm going to keep that property, because it just makes sense for the math that I've worked between what the property is doing around it, what the rate I have is 2.8% on that property, which is, to me, is a great rate. The valuation, even if it dips down, will probably most likely go back up and go over its previous high as far as what it was worth. And it's a good long-term investment, in my opinion. Just like Tesla, just like fill in whatever else you want to do, crypto or whatever company you want to fill in there. So my conviction, my commitment, my stance is with Tesla, I have 2 plays here. I have the long-term play, and then I have my trading play. My trading play is, if I get stuck in my position with Tesla short term, I have to wait to turn that money if it does drop below 200. If it does go to 180 or 160 or wherever. I mean, it doesn't seem like it will, but there is a good chance that it will. And if it does, what then? What now? Do I add more shares? Do I sell covered calls, which pays you a premium at a higher strike price at a further expiration date, so that I can I don't have to worry about the margin I used, right, being called, where I have to add money or sell some other shares to get a margin call. Margin call meaning like, okay, I'm over leveraged $1,000. I either got to add the money, or I have to sell some shares, or I can collect a premium. For example, if I say, hey, if I collect a $1,000 premium, and it meets my the requirements for my margin, if I'm using margin, I don't have to worry about that, and I can wait because I'm like, I'm just going to wait anyway, right? But if I'm trying to turn the money today, if I cut a loss, if I sell, I'll give you an example. At 125 shares right now, I'm heavily vested in Tesla in that account with margin, meaning if I have 15,000 in that account and I'm using more than that, right, to own the shares, then I have to, and it's dipped below that value where it says, okay, you're $1,000. I'm giving you an example. I'm $1,000 below, or $500 below, or $100. It doesn't matter. It could be $1. Then they're going to say you're in jeopardy of a margin call. You need to add funds or sell some of those shares to free up the available cash to cover the deficit. Then I have to say, okay, well, I don't want to own those shares there for 6 months or 2 years, right? And I don't want to keep adding because that's not my investment portfolio. That is a trading thing. I'm trying to keep adding. I'm trying to keep turning that money every week, essentially, where it's growing, right? And if it's not, I have to make a decision on how I readjust that strategy. So I might have to sell 5 or 10 or 20 shares to free up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, so I don't have to worry about that. So if Tesla pops again, right, in that chart, it does break up to 230 to 250 or 300, right? Because Tesla's crazy, it's so volatile. That if I want to sell when it does that, like I've done with many other stocks, I'm not locked into some contract, option contract, that if it does shoot up, but I'm locked into a contract. Even though I can get out of the contract, I might have to pay $500 or $1,000 to release the contract. It's like ending a lease early. So I'm free. And now I say I spend $1,000, then I sell those shares if I time it, if I'm lucky enough to time where it goes, oh, it popped to 250, and it cost me $1,000 to free up the 100 shares in that example. I am going to then, even if I take a profit, I got to keep taking account of the $1,000 I had to pay to free up the shares, right? Versus if I wanted to wait to the expiration, which could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year before that contract expires. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into account and weigh out when you're making these moves. But you got to kind of know how the plan. I think the key thing is to have a plan with whatever you're doing. One of my friends who invests in crypto, right, we'll say XRP, and if that person has 75,000 tokens, right, his plan is to accumulate up to 100,000 and then see where it goes long term over the next 5 to 10 years, because that person's conviction is, I think it's going up to 10, 12, maybe $50 or more over the years to come. I'm not worried about it. That's future. Like, that's money that I don't need. I just set it aside because I think it'll be a good long-term investment. That's what he allocated. He doesn't need the money today. So if you need the money today, if we're going through a recession, if we're going through a hard recession, or going to be, if people are going to be tightening their belt, people are going to be losing their jobs, companies are going to go out of business and all that stuff, then you got to say, do I need this cash today to pay my rent, to put food on the table, to provide health care, to put gas in my car, like whatever those basic necessities to meet my debt? If the answer is no, I don't need that money, and you're okay with sitting on Tesla or XRP or Amazon or whatever company or investment that you're a real estate deal, then good for you, right? Because you got to do your own math, your own due diligence, and then decide this is something that makes sense for me and my family for the next fill in the blank time frame. So today, to end it, because I'm over 20 minutes, is for Tesla today, as I end this video, it's 8:30 now, I'm very curious to see between now and 9:30, right, when the market opens and option contracts come alive for all the platforms, or whoever the brokerage is Tesla right now going to go below 200 and head towards 180, previous support? Or is it going to pop up back to 230 to 250, right, regardless if it breaks back down again? And at that point, for me personally, I will most likely, if it does, sell those shares in that account, because I'm not long on that account. In that account, I'm not trying to accumulate 1,000 more shares. I don't want to have all that money tied up in that account, because that's not my strategy there. I just want to make some money each week, right, each month, and not be restricted for that particular trade. Like when I go into anything, when I go into work today, I don't know what the whole week is going to bring me. I know that Halloween's coming up. You know, I only have so much time I'm scheduled for today. My expiration date today is I get out at 4 o'clock today. I mean, I'll stay later if I need to, but I'm going in today and I have things that I have to accomplish while I'm here, people I need to talk to, certain things that are required. I'm going to punch in and punch out. And at the end of the day, I hope I accomplish certain things. And that's it. And then tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going to do it again. So it's the same thing with the trade that I entered. When you enter any type of trade or investment, my humble opinion is you should have some type of idea of your exit plan, of what the time horizon is. If you go in and say, I'm just getting in here, it's like jumping off a cliff into some water that you have no idea how deep the pool is or the water level is, if there's rocks underneath, or if there's sharks swimming around. I mean, you got to have an idea of what you're getting into before you just jump in. And for me, for Tesla, today, I'm with those shares in that Robinhood account. If it pops, I'm getting out. If it gets to 235 to 250, even if it goes to 300, forget it. I'm going to be out before that, because I'm going to lock in some profits. And then if I can get in and get out again, I will. Long-term wise, on the other side, if Tesla drops to 180 to 160, man, that is, for me, it's awesome regardless of what I own those shares for in the other account. I'm adding for a decade, right? Because I think Tesla long-term wise, with all the information currently today, will be a $300, $400, $500 or more per share company. Good investment for that money allocation. So that's my 2 cents for the day. Hope you guys have a great Monday, and I'll see you next time. See ya.